this is Tanya from EduTV New Delhi. Today, we have with us Dr. Jitendra Nagpal, who is the Program Director of Expressions India, the National Life Skills, Values, Community, and the School Wellness Program. Welcome to the show, Dr. Nagpal.
Good afternoon, Tanya. Thank you.
Dr. Nagpal, considering the current scenario of the outbreak of the COVID-19, we see students, teachers, as well as parents, they're undergoing through a lot of stress, which is indirectly affecting their mental health as well. So, since
True.
you are also senior consultant psychiatrist and in charge of the Institute of Child Development and Adolescent Health as well, along with it, you're also a member of the advisory group of the Child Mental Health Committee of the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights of New Delhi. So, what are the common challenges in the making of mental health and well-being an essential reality for schools and colleges in India right now?
It has been a very pertinent and most relevant question in the last about 2 months now. And the World Health Organization has also been telling the whole world that we are likely to see a mental health pandemic also. Well, the COVID-19 has taken us by shock and sudden and also unexpected changes that are going to happen in the psyche of the entire humanity. What we need to be prepared is a new world and a changing world for our young people, the young minds of the entire world, maybe the country where we are living in. We all know, and I'll like to share here, as you mentioned, the mental health challenges or difficulties in coping with life and a lot of mental health disorders. If you combine them, nothing less than about 13 to 17% of our children. So you can imagine 13 to 17% means many crores of children are already suffering from mental health problems. And when the COVID-19 comes in and the onslaught is to the entire world, the entire education system, and also the challenge to the families, the social challenges of incorporating the lives of young children and making them happy and healthy. We can imagine the burden of disease onto the young mind. Is the school prepared for it? Is the family prepared for it? Is the policy and the program and the practices of the system prepared for it? When we are interacting, and I think the government is also very remarkably looking into it. So, in a nutshell, what I'm saying to your question is the mental health and the psychosocial well-being need of a child, of the adolescent, of the young adult in the college also, the youth of India, and they all together constitute nothing less than 40 to 50 crores of population. Our population of young people and young mind, like the child and the adolescent, is much higher than the entire population of America. But we need to look into their psychological well-being now, and that is relevant to their career choices. It's relevant to their future. So I think, in a nutshell, more trainings are required, more orientations are required for updating the parents, the senior students, and also the teachers.
You mentioned that we need to take care of a lot of trainings for the parents as well. So, how, according to you, can the parents help in the overall development of their child?
Well, we all have heard from our childhood that child is the father of the man. Children sometimes even become good parents for their own parents. After all, what is parenting? It is not about mothering and fathering. It is so much to do beyond mother and father. I think a great teacher, a great guru is my parent also. And I think that a film star or a cricketer or a role model who is away from the family is also a parent. They teach us something about life that I can follow. They are my role models, isn't it? So when you look at the parents at home, the mother and father, my own family, I think there is a huge demand to understand each segment of a growing child, like early childhood. अब देखिए, it is very crucial now to appreciate that early childhood, which is about 6, 7, 8 years of life. The entire human brain, development, according to the pedagogical neuroscience, there's a new branch coming up, the pedagogical neuroscience. How teachers need to know about the brain development, the stark realities of the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the right brain and the left brain factors which influence learning. That's a huge topic for teachers nowadays. It is already known that by 7, 8 years the entire brain development is complete. What do we do? जो imprint होते हैं, जो बच्चे के impressions होते हैं, and how children carry those impressions throughout life in the what we learn in the family. This is what parenting is all about. Parents need to know about early childhood mental health issues, early childhood behavioral learning, intelligence, EQ, emotional quotient, the social quotient of a child. But there are the roots being formed. The early childhood is the root and the rise of the wings to the child. So we need to give that in early childhood. Then comes the middle school and the high school. That is the time when the charm and the challenge of parenting and the charm and the challenge of being an adolescent. The primary school child moving into the sixth and the seventh and the eighth class. So adolescence is a huge area of the global thinking nowadays for teaching, for parenting, and also for the social media. You have heard so much about how social media is impacting the adolescent psyche. Isn't it important for us to listen to the voice of the teenager, the voice of the adolescent? So I often recommend that the adolescent ambassadors, जो हमारे किशोर अवस्था के राजदूत हैं, एम्बेसडर्स हैं, उनको हमें सुनना चाहिए. We should listen to the adolescent all over the world. There are voices of the teenagers being heard. Why not in India? I think we should all give a chance on the online medium, on the online webinars, to give a chance to hearing the adolescents of our country and what do they need, what are their concerns, their physical concerns, their emotional concerns, their intellectual concerns, their choices in career choice, and how they need to choose a career which is not just about a job tomorrow. It is about stability, success, and harmony about their life. I think every child wants to be a happy child. So we need to work on happy parenting, we need to work upon positive parenting, and we need to work upon stress-free parenting. That is my mantra for the parents to learn about the entire holistic development of childhood and adolescence today.
Like you mentioned about EQ, so what according to you is more desirable in young minds? Is it EQ or is it IQ or is it both? And what are the major pros and cons for the same?
I think as the world is advancing and we have come across the millennial child, the children of 21st century, and the young people who are in the postgraduate and graduate colleges, I think everybody is accepting that what we need is a leadership for emotional quotient. We need a collaborative, cooperative leadership for emotional stability. The great leaders being produced by the B schools and the best business schools across the world. Soft skills. How do we train our emotionality, about our behaviors, about our collaborative skills, about our self-management skills? How do I bring about a change in the leadership of people whom I actually lead in an organization tomorrow? The achievers who are 90 percenters or 95 percenters need not be having the EQ. And that is why a large number of people who may be average scores in school, they become much more successful in life later because they tend to be having a higher EQ. So I feel that both are important. We are born with intelligence. We are nurturing our wisdom in the school and the college, but nonetheless, with the inborn and the ability that we carry from our parents and our grandparents, our genetic mapping of our intelligence, a lot is now on the nurturance. How we bring together the intelligence and the nature's gift, and we nurture it like a flower, like a garden, and like the inflorescence of life. I think that's most important, and I fully agree with you that the EQ or the SQ, the social quotient and the emotional quotient, are far much more important today than only the IQ. And this is where the better institution and the best institution can be differentiated. The better institutions take care of developing children. The best of the institutions take care of developing their EQ and SQ.
Teachers right now are going through a lot of stress. So what are your views on the same? And can something be done about it? I mean, you are a psychiatrist by profession, so can something be worked out?
India has amongst the largest number of teachers in the world. There's no doubt because we have a large number of schools. We have a large number of colleges. And as far as my understanding goes, I think we have more than 900 universities in the country, and we have about more than 18 lakh schools. And if you see the entire remarkable strength of the people going to schools and colleges in India, it is probably much more than children in majority of the countries. Our schools and colleges are much, much higher than many children, populations of children in many European and other countries. So I think it's a remarkable wealth of the nation. Our children, our young people in colleges are actually the demographic dividend. They are a gift to the nation. जो देश की संपत्ति है, हमें इनको संभालना है, सराहना है, इनको सक्सेसफुल बनाना है, इनको सेल्फ एस्टीम देनी है. इसके लिए the very important part is their the ability to have a consistent compassion for them, and a very clear guidelines about their role and development. For this, a teacher has to go through a lot of training. A teacher has to go through a lot of day-to-day activities besides teaching the subject. Suppose I'm a maths teacher or a geography teacher or a teacher looking after games and physical education. I think more important is that every teacher is a good counselor. Every teacher has taken up so many responsibilities to be a life skills teacher. So the stress on the teacher is very high nowadays, and I think we need to help. Remember, a staff health policy, a policy that takes care of the teacher's own mental health and well-being, a policy and a program and a training that consistently understands and has a teacher share and given the care by other peer group teachers, by the head of the institution, by parents also, that respect and the regard for the guru, the teacher. I think that is where the teacher needs to be given stress management. We all need to partner with the. I would say a teacher is a frontline warrior for education. Teacher is a crusader. Maybe just like the doctors and the police and the army personnel today in the COVID-19 times. The teachers are actually the frontline warriors for the education. They are reaching out to crores of children, millions of children in the home every day through the online classes, and they have to still look after their own health. Teachers need to take care of their own private space. They need to take care of how they can actually bring about a change in their own family, their own children. So I think it's a multitasking time for the teacher, and we should salute the teacher's own ability to do that with a lot of emotional quotient. So taking care of the pedagogical challenges and the pedagogical stress and the mental health and well-being is a desirable, very important, utmost needed programming by the schools and the colleges today. Happy teachers will create happy children. Happy teachers will create happy classrooms and happy institutions. So teacher is the bedrock and the spinal column and the backbone of teaching. We should always take care of them.
Mentioned that the teachers are the backbone of institutions in school, and we have to have happy teachers if we want a happy school or a happy student. So what according to you is the role of a mental health professional and the counselors in the 21st century education institutions right now?
As a psychiatrist and also a mental health professional who is advising people and trying to help people with the school mental health and the university mental health services in India, I think it has been a wonderful experience for me to learn also. And thanks to all the millions of teachers, senior students, we have done a lot of peer training programs across the country. More than 10,000 peer educators have been trained in the last 2 years, who are senior students who become the leaders in positive mental health and collaborative leadership in school. And more than that, the teachers also probably are the messengers, ambassadors for a new world tomorrow. I think the partnership between the family and the school to create a better world of life skills and positive mental health is now shifting to the school and the college system. Alone, the mental health professional, which is a very small category of population, I can share with you that I don't think we have more than 10 or 15,000 mental health professionals in the country. But what we need is more than 1 or 2 lakh people now. So the onus and the responsibility for promoting good well-being and positive mental health is coming to the teachers, the family, the senior students, the leaders of the college and the schools, and people like people who are in the social media, who set an example, who become role models for positive coping mechanisms and how to deal with life situations. So it is not just the mental health professionals, and never it will be possible for the mental health professionals to take care of the demands for mental health in the country. So we need to come forward, build up the school mental health services and programs in the country with the help of the educational institutions, very strongly build up the university mental health and counseling services in the country. With 930 universities, how is it possible for mental health professionals who are just few thousands in the country, and the students are 30-40 crores? So we're not looking at the management of any mental illnesses. That's of course happening, and the professionals will take care. We're looking at promoting a happy environment. We're looking at goodwill, the quality of life, the smiles on every child, and through the child into the family, the teachers. So the happiness quotient, the social quotient, the emotional quotient, I think all of us are equally responsible for promoting that. All of us. I feel teachers, parents, students, faculty members, management, the people who run the institutions, they also are equally responsible. So in short, I think the challenges confronting the positive mental health in our country, especially the education institutions, cannot be taken on alone by the mental health professionals. We need much larger, maybe the 10 times larger population of the non-mental health sector, which is the education, with the help of teachers primarily and the senior students to come forward to collaborate, to become partners, to become cooperative platforms for promoting happiness, health, and well-being in the entire country. And that is where I think short-term courses, maybe even certificate courses in positive well-being and counseling services and taking care of leadership in mental health are immediately required. And I think a lot of challenges like drug abuse, depression, anxiety, fear of the unknown, challenges towards relationship issues, prevention of suicide. I think these are challenges which our government already knows and our institutions know. We have enough data in the country. We all need to work together to bring about a happier and a healthier young gentlemen and young gentlelady for tomorrow. And they are the leaders of our country. They are the role models for our country, the young people. We need to help them discover the best potential in their own life.
So, Dr. Nagpal, what according to you is the holistic and inclusive education considering the 21st century scenario?
Very important two major words which are being constructed for the education institution in any part of the country. Holism or holistic implies the entire organism, the entire overall rounded development of a young human being. The physical development, which is about fitness and physical prowess, physical strength, and we have the psychological stability, the psychological fitness, the ability to have a goodwill and a quality of understanding in the interpersonal relationships, and of course the social part. The social part is not about being social. Social part is accepting that one is a member of the group, and the respect and the honor and the dignity of a group becomes a part of my personality development. So the physical, the psychological, and the social development, along with the fourth dimension, the spiritual development. The values, family values, the social values, how we look at the larger interest of the country, the nation, the society. Now, these are all part of the holistic development. And I think all best education institutions, the government of India is looking into a complete overall rounded development of the human being in school or college. Inclusivity is an extension of that. Inclusivity is a philosophy where all types of children with all types of schools and colleges and all types of teachers study together. They move together, they grow together, they develop together, they celebrate happiness and life together. Nobody is differentiated or discriminated. There is no stigma about whether there is a group of children who need an extra help, there is a group of children who come from some difficult circumstances. They all need to work together, they all need to study together, they all need to help each other. That is my idea of inclusion. There is a uniformity, there is a unity in entire diversity. And where else in the world can the beauty of diversity be seen? It's in India. Diversity in all forms. You walk across 100 kilometers in the country, you will see so many interesting, enlightening diversities in language, in culture. I think this is where the celebration of a classroom or an education institution is inclusive education. Let all be together to grow together and develop. And I think this is where you will produce better leaders for tomorrow, and we will all be better followers for tomorrow. That is my idea of holism, holistic and inclusive classroom or inclusive society.
So we've discussed about the training programs for teachers, the parents, and others. So considering the youth of India, this upcoming generation, so what according to you are the training parts that we can take care of for the students' point of view? Also, how do you see India progressing in the times to come?
Tanya ji, thank you. And this is my favorite area. I feel that population is a great advantage also. We always worry in India about our population. But when youth are in tandem with each other, when youth are in walking tandem with the practices, the programs, and the newer challenges which are coming through innovation, creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, leadership, collaboration, competitiveness, and also high emotional stability. I think there is no other wealth than the youth as a trainer for the future of well-being of the nation and their own life. So I insist and I certainly recommend that all the young people in schools who are say beyond the 7th and 8th standard onwards, they should have the chance to participate, to become leaders, to lead on the pattern which probably could be helping them to define how could be a happy, healthy environment be created. So the life skills training program, which is peer mentors and the peer educators and also the peer leaders, the peer ambassadors, they should be having the chance to become one of them in their school time. They should be given an opportunity and a platform to become leaders and trainers in their own well-being and the others' well-being at the college level. And the chain of such peer educators for mental health and life skills and for the special needs of our country tomorrow, I think will be a remarkable bonding between the transition period of school and the college. What our country needs today is understanding adolescents a little better, communicating with the adolescent who's from 10 to 19 years. 10 to 19 years is a very, very important, crucial, and powerful population. We need to listen to them. You need to listen to their voices, their leadership, and that transition coming from the 11th and the 12th class into the first and second year college is a huge gap at the moment. And that is the mental health scenario. When a child moves from schooling to the college, sometimes the challenges and the overwhelming environmental change can cause a lot of mental health problems, and the country has enough data of it. And that is where the leadership in some of them who can help the peer group to cope up with the realities and take up the challenges and become much more mind smart, become healthy, and also lead the positivity of their life skills and mental health. Now that training, I think my experience is through the last about 15 years, it has been a remarkable asset, and we have grown. I have grown listening to young people in schools and colleges, and I think what they need from us is a lot of patience, a lot of tolerance, and a lot of effective communication. And what they want to do is leadership, collaboration, resilience. They have resilience, they have the elasticity, but we need to appreciate that. They have the adaptability, they have the acceptance. You look at how young people are ready to take up the challenge of COVID-19 and beyond in terms of the online classes, in terms of resilience, adaptability, acceptance. We need to partner with them. I often tell parents and teachers, let us be the learners and they should be our teachers, at least once in a while. Children become our teachers and we become the learners. I think they will lead us to the right path tomorrow, because when we are old, we need the young people to lead us. And that is a training which is yet missing, and we should all empower them, strengthen them, make them more powerful in their own skills for a better tomorrow.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nagpal. I'm sure it's going to be a very helpful episode today for teachers, students, as well as parents.
Thank you so much. Wish you all the best, and we look forward to many more such interactions with the young people, the teachers, and the parents also.
Definitely, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.